Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are listening to me from. My name is Tola Shoyemi, popularly known as Hadelight. I want to thank you. It's been a while. That I've been around, but something caught my attention lately. I think it is worthy to speak about it. So, as a cultural person and somebody that is deeply rooted in tradition, so I think there is a great need for me to share my thoughts on what happened between that young lady and the chairman of UBA, which is in person of Tony Elumelu. So, and I think the first point which people are missing is the ability not to be able to distinguish between culture and civilization. So, if you are able to distinguish between culture and civilization, you will know that culture can be learned. So, but you see, the civilization is just like the hardware in a computer, while culture is the software. So that means that the building is civilization, and then the inside is culture. So culture is the way people live their life, the way people live their life. So, and then and it is inward thing, why civilization is actually what you can possess outside. That means the cities, the structures, the technology, the clothing that you can see. It's actually the civilization. So people are now, they mix culture and civilization, and they term them as one. And actually, they are not one, they are different. So the concept need to be understood. When the concept is understood, then there will be the proper understanding. Now, the layman definition of culture is simply the way of life, and that way of life is how you live your life. So how you live your life. So in how you live your life, there are certain elements that will be considered, that will be looked into critically. And then those are what your number one is: belief, the belief system. What and what do you believe in? That your culture. What and what do you believe? And this belief has to do with how you take care of your elders, how how you relate with your, then how you greet, the value you put in greeting. It's important that you put it, which is what distinguish a lot of culture. Then number two is the language. Language is very, very important. It stands out because language, aside of the norm, is your number one identity. Your number one identity. So as long as you're able to speak that language, it's already automatically saying who you are. You don't need any introduction. For if I speak Yoruba now, people just assume that I'm a Yoruba person because it is my own identity now. So then number three is food. Number four, clothes. I mean the kind of clothing that you wear. Now culture is dynamic, and a lot of diffusion, so to say in quotes, is beginning to happen. You see that even in UK and in America, people are now adopting the Nigerian style, the Yoruba style of marriage and wedding. I've seen a lot where people will do the normal asoebi, they do Ankara, they do the office style, the gele, the cap, they do it. So, and you see, it's now dynamic, going to other places which are not primarily the owner of that practice. So, and then with the food, I talk about the food, the way you greet, your way of life generally. That is the culture. It's what it entails. Now, going back to what has happened, you see, culture is a process. It involves a process of learning, so it can be taught. It can be taught. So when you don't properly go through the rudiment of the ethics of that culture, then you are not really part of what you think you represent. So now, we have adopted English language as our model of communication. Fine. And then so it is now like the channel of communication, even in Nigeria as it is, Nigeria as a whole is multilingual, multi-ethnicity, and also we use the language as a lingua franca. So being, we are so aware of the fact that Yoruba culture is even different from Igbo culture. Igbo is different from Hausa, Hausa is different from Yoruba. Then Edo, we have the dynamic cultural norms, which is deeply rooted in what we believe. Now, when the child grows up in a home, the home is supposed to be the first institution. It's supposed to be the first institution. And then when the first institution fails, then, because this is the first place of learning. So if a child does not get that rooted knowledge about what he or she is supposed to know as far as the culture is concerned, then it goes into the society to embarrass that culture. It doesn't represent it well. It's not a true representation of that culture. Now, the fact that we are now multi-ethnic in Nigeria does not mean that Nigeria as a whole does not have an identical culture which can identify you as a Nigerian. So, and that Nigerian mindset typifies African mindset. So that means there is a Nigerian culture, there is an African culture. So now, let's now come back to what transpired. Okay, now if this person has been well trained and she has gotten the nitty-gritty of what it takes, an average Nigerian person wouldn't have called somebody of Tony Elumelu status by name. Forget about what civilization is talking about, because this is now civilization now. Forget about what civilization is talking about, because it is in now the civilization is now in that structure which they have gone to romance with big. Okay, you have gone to your workplace now, which is now a structure, is now the civilization. Now the culture will come first. The culture will come first because it is your identity. That culture is your identity. It is who you are, who you represent, even though there may be change in culture. So when there will be, the changes in culture is a gradual process. You are not the only one that will change it. When the culture is going to change, it's like a movement. Everybody gradually, gravitates towards, the change in culture. Before, I think in the early 90s, when you want to go to parties and clubs, they don't used to play Nigerian music, as hip hop. The American hip hop that we normally play at, don't play. But now, it has become a culture now that even before you can be in a party for like 5 hours, 6 hours before, and then anybody could even remember that there's no foreign music being played. That is like, the cultural drift has, left that side. It has drifted towards the African music, you see. So now, the fault will come from the parent of that lady. Or maybe she was taught and she wants to embrace civilization, and because of civilization she wants to, because she may want to play along, she may want to suddenly put herself in the class of the elite, believing that is the way by which she can be recognized in the class of the elite, so that she can actually relate with that person like that. Our culture doesn't permit it, because our culture stipulates respect for the elders, full respect for the elders. See, I think that was about I think around 2007, 2008. I used to have a school daughter in the university, and then she came to Shagam and for NYSC, and she was posted to Zenith Bank at that time. She was posted to Zenith Bank. So when she got to Zenith Bank, all her bosses, her leaders, she couldn't call them by name. She couldn't call them by name. So she keeps telling me that in the banking sector, my bosses, everybody, they call them by name. They said, but I cannot call them by name. So I'll call them Miss. They will tell me, call by name. I said, no, I cannot call them by name. So I started calling them Mr. Sister so, and so, Miss so. I refused to call them by name. But you know what? She received the best of reception. The best of reception. So in our nature, there are certain things that are not profound, but it's innate in us. So even if they are not complaining, as far as civilization is making it look like, but the reality of their conduct will show in the relationship with the approach and manner in which they are being addressed, which is key. So if you address them normally, as the culture stipulates, nobody is going to tell you that because you have called somebody by name, you'll be penalized. Okay, fine. You can choose to. And culture should be respected. No culture in this world is above another. Every culture is the same. Forget about as small as Ijaw is. Culture of America doesn't supersede it. So it's the same. So she is the one that refused to embrace our own identity. Thank you.